Hello, once again. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Worst Things of All Time. A listing of stratified hierarchy of horrible things in a wide array of subject matters. And covering the scope and breadth of unimaginable depth, giving you an aerial view of objectively what's going on in a broad spectrum of topics that aren't usually approached or talked about in polite company. My name is Douche Riprock. And it's a real pleasure to be your guide through this spiritual awakening. Before we get into the top 10 list, which I assure you I feel very enthusiastic about. I need some just to get through some disclaimers here, just to try and maintain the corporate veil. Number one, I am out to lunch, emotionally, physically, spiritually, sexually. Phoning it in is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a disconnect from all rational and grounded thought. Space Cadet City, USA, man. So with that in mind, I cannot be trusted. I cannot be relied upon, counted on, or any of that kind of stuff, because I'm behaving very irresponsibly. Taking an unfit, abnormal brain and placing it into a context, asserting an array of truths and near misses that I cannot be held responsible for, because I'm temporarily insane. Let's call it that. Number two, I am not a partisan. I don't have any skin in the game. Y'all can play your little stupid victim games and such. There is no difference between lefty and righty. It's all artificial constructs to try to get us to fight amongst ourselves while the robber barons get away with stealing us blind. And if you want to keep fighting people, casting aspersions, just keep it in mind, when you start to objectify entire groups of people, that's just as bigoted as, when, other people that you don't agree with are trying to cast aspersions on entire groups of people based on their own prejudices and bigotry. So if you say that, all right-wingers are madmen, well, that's prejudice. That's a form of prejudice. It might be accurate, or it might be close to accurate. I don't know. But the fact is that, when you cast aspersions against entire groups without analyzing them individually, you're just as guilty as when those guys on their side say that, all gay teachers try to convert their students into having sex change operations at grade school. It's nuts. It's just absolutely nuts. And it's part of how they victimize us, because we don't realize the things that we're saying about things just completely oblivious. And you say one side is ignorant, one side is racist, one side is too sexually adventurous, the other side is too prude, this, that, and this. There are no sides. These are all individuals in crisis. I'm trying to create a movement where all hatred for everyone, the blankets that we throw all over everybody, ends. It's over. There's only two divides of humanoid creatures on planet Earth. That's between the haves and the have-nots, because people, when they become billionaires, they're monsters. They aren't human anymore. Period. End of story. All right, so let's get on with it, shall we? Wow, that was nice, quick. What's today's top 10 worst of list, you're wondering? I'm sure you are, waiting with bated breath. It is top 10 worst top 10 list ideas. And, I've been doing a lot of heavyweight subjects. Long-winded, gigantic, hour and a half long diatribes, monologues. I think I can get through this one in fairly short order. This one is self-referential, just sort of silliness for the sake of silliness. And I don't know, somehow I find a way to take the tiniest little point and extrapolate all kinds of different, verbal diarrhea to indulge myself with. But I think I can get through this without too much of a, maybe just an hour and 20 instead of an hour 30. Anyway, so here we go. Top 10 worst top 10 list ideas. What is basically, it's like a cheat sheet. I don't come up with these on the fly. I have all these lists are predetermined, written down and stuff. And so I have a master list of lists that lists out all the potential lists for the future that I might want to list out. So I've got lists of lists for lists ideas. And, so like I'll be, tooling around the woodshed. And all of a sudden I'll be like, top 10 worst examples of built-in obsolescence as a means of reducing competition in the marketplace. Very important goal of our overlords. The less people that have stuff, the less competition there is. That means that people can't rat out and blow the whistle on their employers and then just walk across the street and work for their competitors, because there are no competitors. So this is a list of potential lists for future lists. Number 10, the top 10 people who deserve to get tasered in the nut meat. See, that could be a good list. The only problem is how to keep it to just 10 people. I saw 10 people I wanted to taser in the nut meat when I was, commuting, through the city today. Another probably 10, reading the news at least. Another 10, scrolling through aggregate news sites, where they just pump all the stories full of jerk-offs and ne'er-do-wells. I wonder, AI is so expansive and everything like that. If you think about it, I know just about everybody out there at some point has seen where either they're clicking on something of a certain subject matter that they're interested in, or they're talking about it without being online, without having their phones even on, without being in a phone conversation, but just talking about it in a room where a phone is at. And then 20 minutes later, you see, and sometimes it's even less these days, customized ad placement in your social networking news feed right near the top that advertise the exact thing that you were talking about in an informal conversation without being online at all. They got so sophisticated and their technology is so advanced that they can just eavesdrop on our conversations using our phones, even if we think that they're off, and they can index all that stuff, probably with AI, so that they can come up with, well, I'm talking about, hot soup. And I got some hot soup, and I'm like, wow, I'd really like to have some hot soup or whatever. And then, I'll go online to some social network or what, and then within a couple of minutes, I see a advertisement for soup or something hot or hot soup. And you'd be like, wow, I wasn't even online when I was talking about the hot soup. And they'll just be like, oh, it's there. So you must have done something. And so if they can do that, right, if they can put individualized ads for things that you specifically are interested in near the top of your newsfeed, that means that they can manipulate everything that you see online. So it's not, and they've talked about this and admitted that they've been, on Facebook, they've been putting depressing stories at the top of news feeds of people to see what the psychological ramifications or effect is when people see a bunch of depressing stories at the top of their feed. And they admitted it, Facebook did about 10, 15 years ago, but they never said that they were going to stop doing it. But anyway, if they can put an ad in the middle of your top of your news feed like that, which I think at this point we've all seen, that means that they can put any stories that they want in any order for everywhere that you go on the web. Your search results, the stories that they put in your, at msnow.com when you're looking up whatever you're looking up something, and they've got aggregate news stories. They will put all the stories that have to do with your field of inference or interests or things that they want to be your field of interests. They want, and it's messed up because if they can do all that, then they can control everything that we know without us knowing it. And probably in real time, the power that they've got at their disposal already is so beyond anything that anyone's imagining. And it's all working towards manipulating us to be completely subservient, or maybe even victims that get exterminated at this point to make room for the AI robots. How does this all tie in with getting tasered in the nut meat? All right, so number 10, top 10 people who deserve to get tasered in the nut meat. It's all, if somebody like me, I'm just going to go one after the other after all the hierarchy. I'm going to go for, all the people that do the things and so on and so forth. 10 people, I'm not going to give it away. I might do this at some point. These are all lists I came up with. So I might want to do a top 10 worst people to get tasered in the nut meat. Number 9, the top 10 bodily fluids slipped into Mexican restaurant table salsa. Well, that's an interesting and grotesque thing to bring up and talk about, because who hasn't been to a restaurant where, the rolls, you kind of wonder, are you recycling these rolls, the free rolls that they give you at some restaurants? No, some other restaurants will give you some free wonton chips. I haven't seen in a long time. Of course, I haven't gone out to a Chinese dinner in a million eons. But they used to, put out some wonton chips for you at the table, some free nasharai, as they call it. And they've got a lot of, they put the peanuts and the pretzels on the bar and everything like that and whatnot. And nobody knows where this stuff has been. Nobody knows what types of things are going into, out of, through, slathered all over. I mean, people notoriously at parties, people are totally clued into this one, where they double dip, where they take a chip and they dip it into the dip and they take a bite, and then they take another same chip, like the second half of the chip, and they'll put it into the same dip and slather more goo on top of their chip, and you're like kind of like looking at them going like, hello, I don't want to live in your mouth rent free here, or whatever the phrase might be, but you got all the salivas and stuff into my dip, and I don't want to try any of that dip now anymore. You wasted the dip. Why don't you just eat the whole dip yourself, you lousy freaking antisocial pig dog? I mean, here you go, double dipping and in the dip. By the way, for the most recent Super Bowl, I actually came up with a new recipe. Oh my God, can you believe this has happened to me? You take a 7-layer dip, right, that you get at the store, but you do with it. Here's where you trick them. It's where you fool them all and make yourself out to be, so people look at you like, you're something special or whatever. And that's what we all want in this life. We don't want to actually be special. We just want people to look at us like we're something special. So you take the 7-layer dip, but you buy 3 of them, and you put them, you get like a bigger container and stuff, like a Tupperware's, or the formaldehyde and the, Teflon, or the hexavalent chromium coated stuff, and you put them in, put all 3 containers of dip layered on top of each other. So you go from 7-layer dip that every old jerk-off's got at their Super Bowl party, and then you turn it into 21-layer dip, and people will be like, well, what's this? And you'd be like, that's my 21-layer dip. And they'll be like, wow, impressivo. Wow. And so anyway, but the thing is, if they go in with the chip and they only bite into half of it, that means their sputum is still on the balance of the chip, and they go for the second dip, and your 21-layer dip is kaputski. What are you going to do when that happens? Tell everybody, hey, what. And it just so happens 9 times out of 10, your best friends will bring around a rando to one of your parties, and that's the guy who's going to do it. And that's also the guy who's got hepatitis B through F. Just got all these hepatitises concomitantly in their mouth spittle. How about that movie Dune, where Baron von Harkonnen he's got Jessica. I'm talking about the old Dune, the only Dune, the 1984 Dune, and Baron von Raschke, what is the guy? Harkonnen has the concubine, the royal concubine Jessica, with the gag in there, and she's and the Duke Leto Atreides is captured off somewhere, and they got Paul and Jessica are captured, and they got the mouth gags and stuff. And Baron Harkonnen's leaning over the top of her going like, just one bit of spittle in your face. That would be, what a luxury. And I'm like looking at that stuff, going, that is amazing, man. That is pure David Lynch. That, and my second favorite line in any David Lynch movie, not that you were asking, but hey, what the hell? We're all here trying to have a good time, right? Is when he goes, when he says, you want a Heineken or something like this? Hell no. Pabst Blue Ribbon. And so great. So, what a great, funny, hilarious, creative, whatever. And that guy who plays Dr. Yui in Dune is the guy in the movie with the Pabst Blue Ribbon line, I think. He's in the scene. Anyway, so isn't that great? Wow. So anyway, Mexican table salsa. The top 10 bodily fluids snuck into it. I've snuck a variety myself. I know spittle, one of them, probably just a tiny little bit of nose excretions here and there. In my earlier days when I was less committed to sobriety. And then there's, there's probably a little, dribs and drabs of navel lint. You know, you got the table salsas right down there. It's down. You're holding it close to the vest there in the area near the navel, in the vicinity, in the navel adjacent area. You know. So number 8, top 10 occasions. These are of the top 10 worst top 10 list ideas. But I keep them around for a rainy day. You know, you never know when I might need to take, a vacation or something unlikely. I could barely even walk. Why would I take a vacation? Number 8, the top 10 occasions that warrant your significant other to agree that for that couple's first anal encounter. Now, I could just come off the top of my head. Arbor Day, a great time for the first anal. Then your 3rd anniversary. I mean, that's a good one. I think that is the anal anniversary. There's first is tin, and then wood, and then anal, and then platinum. I think I don't remember exactly, but hey, there you go. There you have it. Number 7 of the top 10 worst top 10 list ideas. The top 10 inappropriate times to whip out Mr. Winky and slap a cop in the face with it. Now, I don't think there are really. I'm a glass half empty guy, so I'm optimistic, and I think that there are no inappropriate times to whip out Mr. Winky and slap a cop in the face with it. Maybe just, offer to do his lipstick with your purple helmeted love warrior and or her lipstick. The cops can be multi-generational like that now. So there's no need to assignate gender models on my top 10 inappropriate times to whip out Mr. Winky listing. Number 6, the top 10 celebrity half-eaten pieces of toast currently available for sale on eBay. Now there is a piece of toast, I think, if I remember correctly, I think it's Justin Bieber. I don't know why I want to say that. But it sounds like something that, people who would, the big believers or whatnot, would be interested in bidding on. And I think there's a half-eaten piece of toast or something like that on eBay, or there was at some point, where people could get a slice of the old Bieber toast. I don't remember 100% if it was Bieber. I think it was Bieber, or it was either Bieber, or perhaps it was that guy who does that thing, Jack White, maybe, or Meg White. I don't think it was them, but I can't say for sure. I can't, and I don't want people to be all misled. They're misled through too many other things in this world. One thing after another, being misled to the point where we don't even have any sort of tether to reality. We have no idea what is really going on in this world. It makes it impossible for us to be able to really honestly choose between things, because it's all based on, everything's just layer upon layer of lies and fantasy and stuff. And we can't even really make honest decisions because we've been starved of the objective truth for so long that we wouldn't even recognize it if we saw it. And that's the problem, because, hey, everything's a problem, especially when I'm looking at it and talking about it on this particular, endeavor here with the top 10 worst things. Why would I not have the things that are not problems on a list that's based on worst things? Why did I choose to do worst things? Why didn't I choose to do great things? If I purport to be, looking to inspire people to do better, to, engage more in the world around themselves, being more aware, more diversely oriented, be, hungry to learn about our history so that you can equip yourself and others to be able to recognize how the war against humanity is being waged and what might be able to happen to defend ourselves, and maybe even, heaven forfend, we figure out a way to advance the cause of humanity instead of always playing off our back foot and letting the robber barons run roughshod over the top of us. Right? Are you following with me? Are you there with me? Are you still thinking about? Are you still trying to look up who the half-eaten piece of toast used to belong to? All right. So number 5, the top 10 animals that KFC chicken is made out of, chicken is made out of. Now I don't know. I mean, a lot of people say the reason why. I mean, there's an urban myth, legend / wives' tale of what animals are really being used in KFC, and that the fact that they changed it to KFC is proof to these people that the food item lovingly referred to as KFC chicken might in fact not be chicken, and that's why they changed it to KFC, because they could get away with calling it. They were worried that they wouldn't be able to get away with calling it KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken for much longer, because it self-identified as chicken. But in fact, point of fact, it very well might be a wide array of animals and even possibly artificial stuff they grow in a laboratory, and or possibly cellulose that they derive from tree bark and stuff. And I don't see why there's anything, necessarily wrong with it, because it's still pretty tasty. And I think that people are sweating the various different alternative resources and protein because they think that's what's going to shorten their lifespan or something like that. Look, your priorities are so wrong. If you want to if you're really worried about the length of your lifespan, trying to squeeze out a few extra years or whatever, it's got the poor people live 17 years less on average than rich people. And I'm sure that if you're not totally poor, it's going to be some other gradation of that amount of time. So maybe you're not totally poor, maybe you're not all that 17 years, and you've evened it up. Maybe you've evened it up 17 years here, being here. Maybe you've got it to 16 years. Maybe you live 16 years less than rich people do. Who knows? Who's to say? But, if you're worried about picayune little things like, what KFC chicken is made out of, when it's clearly, they'll put a lot of, anabolic growth hormones and stuff like that into the chickens to keep them, healthy and robust and growing muscle mass and everything like that, so that they can, sell their flock for more buckaroos and such. So, what it results in a lot of people being bigger, taller, stronger, faster, $6 million men knockoffs and stuff like that. You look at in the era of the Three Stooges, you watch the Three Stooges movies, those guys are 4 foot nothing. And everybody around them, they can't have a bunch of relative giants who are 5'2" or whatever at the time being put in the same scenes with the guys. It's not it's not going to look right. So and there were a lot of Charlie Chaplin was 5'2" or something like that. All these guys were nothing. I think that's why they were so tough. They were built so low to the ground. It was difficult to hurt them. Buster Keaton's and all that kind of stuff. But the problem is that they get all these things going, or one of the problems is, at least, I don't know how many of them, could be more than one of the problems. Could be a wide array of problems, sources of a plethora of some of these problems, or problem plethora, if you prefer. I'm not even really sure what you would prefer. How would I know what you prefer? Who do you think I'm I come off as a know-it-all, but I'm not really. I don't see myself as that. I just see myself as a really, engaged and focused person who's trying their very best to be, a decent citizen in very, very difficult, dark times for us, where we're all trying to be able to, avoid reality as a protection from it, because we've heard for so long that ignorance is bliss, but it's not true. Ignorance is the opposite of bliss. It's the only with the only practice, the only indulgence that you could allow yourself that makes you more vulnerable because you won't see it coming. And maybe you don't want to see it coming. Maybe we just want to live and be oblivious of all the bad things that are awaiting us, like all the cattle cars that they're building in the death camps down in South America, and probably refining COVID into something much more virulent so they can unload it and create an airborne outside gas chamber and take us down to South America and unleash this gas. They'll just wipe us all out. And in a very painful, gross kind of way where we all get very sick and then we just die off. And they come in probably after the fact with bulldozers and set everybody afire. And it'll just be this mass faceless grave. And that'll be the end of the human race. They'll just exterminate all of us and turns out 2020, because, 2020 is always the one that bites you in the ass, right? 2020 hindsight, the COVID virus will just proved to be a beta test. We were trying to test it out to see if they could control it and how effective it was killing people, and how much dissension that they could, wedge issues that they could create for all of us so that we wouldn't pay any attention to trying to work together to solve this type of thing. What the hell am I talking about? Oh yeah, KFC chicken. What the hell is it made out of? Top 10 animals. I think it's weasel. It's got to be the weasel. Those breast pieces with rib meat. It's totally a large weasel. Anyway, number 4, top 10 dehumanizing hate crimes disguised as movies featuring the most on-screen kills. So, movies have a wide array of subject matter, right? Maybe 4 or 5 different things that contain a secondary level of plot design, which is above and beyond the story arc that happens within the movies. Like if you're watching a movie about, Jim Carrey, he's going to be like at the beginning of the movie, he's going to be a hardcore workaholic, working towards things, sacrificing a lot, but he doesn't get time to spend with the family, and the family guilt trips him because he is spending too much time trying to have an ambitious career, and then something and he has this on-screen epiphany, like going, hey, what, you're right, I don't get to spend a lot of time with the kid, really kind of like feeling like I'm going to be missing out on something that I'm going to regret in a long time. So I'm going to give up all my ambition and I'm just going to go hang out with the kid and everything like that in the end. And then he, boy gets girl, boy loses girl, boy goes through competitive ski contests, wins the ski contest, boy gets girl back. The end. Monogamous, heterosexual coupling takes place. Now, I don't get it. I just don't get it, because it's like, hey, you might want to have, this sort of pre-chewed and cookie cutter forms of expressing and movies within the movies, so that you see it and you're like, okay, well that makes sense. It's the same formula that they use for every one of Jim Carrey's movies. Guilt trip him into giving up his ambition, and saying your family misses you. And this is all, but the thing is, there's a second level of a plot that's going on when you see these movies that they don't tell us, but we absorb it into our system, sort of like an osmosis, an intellectual osmosis, where we see, like Jim Carrey going like, oh yeah, I'm really missing out on all these things. I need to give up all my ambition. Give up your ambition. And the movie is telling us this. And we don't see it. We don't have any guard to put up against it, but it teaches us a lesson that ambition is bad. Aggressive ambition is bad. Do not try to accomplish big things in your life. And that way, you'll be more easy to dominate. More easy to dominate. God damn it. It's true. And that's the secondary level of plot, and you see that all the time. And what I'm talking about, there's various divisions of it. There's stuff that dehumanizes us into thinking that we shouldn't have ambition, that we shouldn't be inspired ever or organically driven to excel, to succeed, to make our lot in life better, to be our own bosses, to start our own businesses. We shouldn't stop and just don't do anything. Anything you do is bad. Doing things is bad. And then there's, the type of thing where they do in movies where they try to recruit people for, God bless it, sorry. They try to recruit people for being, to be drug dealers for the CIA. So they'll do movies where the secondary plot that's sort of hidden from us, above and beyond the story arcs that are going on screen. And that's, movies like Blow or Drugstore Cowboy or Trainspotting or Air America stuff where they show like the glamour side of drug doing and people are, there's occasionally there's tragedy and but there's also a lot of black comedy and they make it look cool and super hip and all that kind of stuff. And for a while it looks okay. And then these people get busted because they make a stupid mistake. So they're showing us that, you could be a drug dealer, successful, have this wonderful lifestyle with all this crazy, good, cool stuff and never bored and never have to go into a 9-to-5 job and commute and all that kind of stupid crap. And they'll show that to you and it'll be like, all I got to do is make sure I don't make this mistake that they're showing in the movie and I'll be fine because I'm smarter than these people are just idiots in this movie and so on and so forth. And before you know it, you're a drug dealer for the CIA. And then they got, other ones that they've got are on-screen kills. That's a good one where you see like a Rambo movie and stuff like that. Remember, Rambo 3, Rambo's fighting alongside of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. Because that's, what they're... So Rambo 3 is Rambo fighting on the side of Al-Qaeda. And when the movie came out, everybody's cheering for Rambo. Going, come on, Rambo! Everything like that. Superman, Rambo... ultra right, ultra white, and they've got and then he goes and he fights with the Taliban and the Al-Qaedas to get rid of the Ruskies, and we're cheering it on, and then whatever it was, 5-10 years later, the Talibans and the Al-Qaedas are our sworn enemy in the war on terror and whatnot, but they show Rambo killing in all of the Rambo movies as many brown people as physically possible within the scope of what hour-and-a-half long movie. So I mean, I've looked it up and the amount of kills that happened in the movie Rambo 2, for example. And keep in mind that as we cheer and cheered for Rambo like crazy as he wiped out all these brown people. We think about it and go Rambo. But, we never think about the fact of what is, 175 people or whatever are being killed off by Rambo, and we never get to hear about what their story is. What happened, to the family. These people who are being killed off by Rambo, unerringly don't have the ability to be able to get any other jobs, or have been kidnapped and enslaved into subservience in the in the jungle with the various different drug manufacturers and dealers that they've got. The paramilitary people that Rambo's fighting against. You could have a lot of people doing that type of stuff, and you don't know. How many children they have, how nice they were, whether or not they were abducted when they were kids and enslaved into those armies. There's all kinds of reasons to think that Rambo abjectly murdering 175 people or whatever the hell it is not worth cheering about. That, that it's, but at the very least, what we should be thinking about is whether or not this is just specifically designed to desensitize us to violence and killing people without knowing who they are, because all these people have families. All these people have dreams and visions, but you don't want to know about any of that. You never get to see any of that. You never get to see even on any of the actors who are going through the motions to try to make people think that there's been, like a mass shooting on the part of our military. And it's just, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Number 3, the top 10 jailbait-looking skanks whose jugs are dangled in front of us by corporate entertainment companies to shift product and hypnotize men into putting their brains into mothballs and letting their groin sit in the driver's seat. This is, we're in Weinstein territory here is what I'm trying to say. And there's, look, we're being set up. Everywhere you turn is cleavage. You got, even on guys, they've got cleavage now. And how are people supposed to, sort of get through their daily life in what, would be a workplace where you've got cleavage staring at you all day and all night? And you're going to cop a peek at, the Grand Canyon, if you will. And some people are going to get caught and it's going to be considered to be sexual harassment. I don't know where the lines are drawn anymore. I'm so detached from interpersonal relationships at this juncture. I don't know. I look people in the eye. I'm not out for any sexual encounters at all. So I'm not even really participating in that game. But I really kind of think that it's setting us up to fail. Try to, be monogamous, try to be dedicated to your spouse and everything like that. Penguins mate for life. Why can't humans? Are we lesser than the penguins? Is that what you're trying to tell me? That human beings are less than penguins? So anyway, the hypnotizing men putting the. What is a guy supposed to do when he's confronted with, like, Sydney Sweeney is all cleavage. She's 100% cleavage. There's not even a person. It's just a life support system for cleavage. And you're like, how do you get around that stuff? And it's put right into our face every freaking day, every hour of every day. When we're not looking at work for the day job, it's cleavage 100% of the time. It's weird. It's like they got it waiting for you when you get outside the building that your office is in. And you walk out and it's boom. Jugs, cleavage, poontang, and all kinds of different, unmentionables and dainties are thrust upon us. And, it's almost like they're trying to have us indulge in a moment of weakness into the nasty, doing the nasty. And it's just, and then they got the Alfred Molina, what's that place, that site and stuff, Ashley Madison. They got the Ashley Madison going. So they got a wide array of funky people who are down, are totally down. I know it's a lot. It's a tough uphill battle. That's why I advocate for not just legalizing prostitution, but to make it mandatory so that everybody gets to clean the pipes, everybody, so that nobody's sexually frustrated ever again. And if you're paying for people to have sex in front of a video camera and calling it pornography and not allowing people to be able to have sex with each other for payment, it's the hypocrisy is too immense. All right, just a couple left to go. Let me see if I can get through them in the next hour and a half. Number 2, the top 10 examples of corporations putting profits before public safety. I remember reading about, there was this GM had a lawsuit on their hands for something going wrong in the engines with a switch that wasn't put in. And the switch was like something, I don't know, and I'm just paraphrasing all this, like 25 cents, I don't know, or something along those lines for that switch. And GM had never put it in, even though they knew it was necessary for car safety, and they just blew it off, figuring that it would cost them less to pay off somebody at some point for being permanently damaged or hurt or whatever it is in by that switch being missing that GM did get sued for ultimately. And they've got the and it's I don't know, maybe it was a 15-cent switch, but people died, and their cars were unsafe because they just decided to cut a corner, and they figured, nobody will ever catch on. We'll live through it for a few years until we get the next model in with the upgrade, and we'll fix it then. Well, it just didn't work out. Now, did it? Because there's all kinds of different things that people can infuse with chips and dip and make sure that they get the public safety is the least of their worries at this point. Well, who the hell's going to tell on them? Without competition, you can't have any whistleblowers because you could spend 20, 30 years of your life in one company and your chosen field, and there's no competition left. So if you blow the whistle and you see that they're participating in DNA splicing to create hybrid humans / beasts, a la Dr. Moreau, where you've got a beast that's half man and half honey badger. You imagine how terrifying that would be? What the hell am I talking about? I mean, this has got to be the most scatterbrained I've ever been on any list. But we finally got to the number one of the top 10 list ideas. Which is already, geez, I'm out to lunch, really. I do need to be examined and get a med adjustment. Number one, the top 10 men who just have to have nothing more than a 1-incher. Wow, I barely understood that. It's a top 10 list, top 10 men who just have to have nothing more than 1 inch in their pants. Everybody, who owns a Maserati, everybody who, votes against their own self-interests, anybody who, is playing grab ass in the office with the professional assistants or whatever they call them. That's at the end of, that's going to end it. I'm going to end it right there. So I've already, even though I was trying to do a shorter list in a more expeditious manner, I still went over, it's now 48 minutes. So, is there something wrong with me? I don't even know half the things I was talking about in this episode. I was just like rolling on a stream of consciousness, going from one thing to the other, various different things that were really, sort of tangential to the main subject, and just go on and lead it to one thing after another. Just like this sort of fishing expedition for a point, and missing every single time. Anyway, that's all the time that we've got for top 10 worst things of all time list for today. I have, of course, some disclaimers. Everything I said here is just opinions. I cannot be trusted. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I encourage you to look up all the things that you are feeling you should be confrontational about, or that you mistrust, or that you just don't believe, or you think that's, hooey, grade A hooey. And so that way you can kind of prove to yourself, it won't take you long. You won't have to miss more than one episode of whatever stupid ass piece of garbage that you're binge watching tonight. And then you can know for yourself that I'm not fooling. I'm straight shooting. I got no skin in the game. I got nothing to prove. I'm not trying to win any kudos from anybody. I don't care what people think of me. I care only about trying to be true to myself in these final days of humanity, and my final days probably too. I don't think I'm going to be able to make the jump to hyperspeed, as it were, aka the cattle cars, the box cars, down to the new Treblinka. Even though my life sucks, I got some kind of mechanism that kicks in. That's why I smile, I laugh, I tell jokes. Jokes are a good way to be able to break the ice. We're all having a good time, laughing together, maybe not taking ourselves so seriously. Maybe we can get to the point where we can have a discussion about all this craziness. Maybe we can find that common ground. Maybe we can find solutions to protect our humanity before it's too late and they wipe out the species and replace us with the AI robots. Right? Anyway, I'm not going to talk about the grief. There's plenty of grief. If you want to heap on top of it, be my guest. Pile on somebody when they're down. Seems like, a cultural norm for us in modern day America. But anyway, if you feel inspired or you want to talk about it, you want to leave basically what would amount to leaving suggestions for other people who might be checking out the comments. I might be able to get a little bit off of some something that you want to counter or more than likely misrepresent. But if you want to talk about those types of things and leave some comments, that way people can review alternative viewpoints that I might be missing. It's unlikely. No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, that's a great forum for people who are interested in what I admit is total wackiness. But it's, they had, in Chicago, they have country and western stations, and it's just like, oh, okay, I think they have two of them, they're these two. And what was weird is that I heard on one of them advertising for a rodeo coming to Chicago. Now, ordinarily, you'd think, like, who the hell in Chicago wants to go see a rodeo? But by virtue of the fact that they have country radio stations here, the people who are the, producers of the rodeo show have a cheap place where people who would be interested in rodeo would centralize so that they don't have to spend a whole bunch of money promoting the rodeo. They can just, flood the radio airwaves and stuff. And the airwaves have already done a great job at coalescing a market base to make a rodeo in the city of Chicago economically viable. Well, if you don't have any of that for, all the other things like weird top 10 worst of lists, it makes it difficult for you to be able to get out the good word or raise money or any of those types of good things to support and help your causes endure and flourish even. Wow, wouldn't that be nice? But the thing is that, without those centralized things, so you can have a rodeo now in Chicago because you can advertise, because the country and western stations exist, and you can just advertise with them. If you didn't have the country and western stations, you'd never be able to have a rodeo in Chicago. And that's how the plan works. Anyway. So, why not click on the like button, subscribe for me, you filthy animal, and let's try to get through this mess together. Oh, wait.